Hi, so I'm just touching base to do a little wrap up of my cleanse experience. So I'm still juicing away. It's the fifth day. What would be the fifth day, but I did not do it the way they prescribe to do it, which is doing 5 days with no food and only doing the juices. I did follow the order. I like the structure, but I think it's important to share not only successes, but where we might fall short of our expectations, but still be very happy with the experience. And I knew it was going to be challenging for me because I'm a hot, solid food person and I love to eat and I think about food a lot and I have a big appetite and I always have. However, I also know from experience that a mental obsession with something that we're consuming is aggravated by constantly consuming the thing. I mean, that obviously makes sense, but the same way that when we're in a codependent relationship and we're always around the person, it becomes very easy to just always be taking them into account and feeding off of their energy and playing off of them, whether you're conscious of it or not. Whereas when you're in that kind of relationship where you're too merged with the other person, in that case, it is helpful to have a reset where you go and spend time by yourself, whether that's for an extended period of time or on a regular, ongoing basis. And I think that's looking back, because as I said, and if you watched the previous video, I didn't know exactly what my intentions were in doing this cleanse. It was an intuitive pull towards it, and I had theories. I had some theories about what it was. And now, as I'm coming to a close on this experience, my theories are being confirmed despite not having accomplished it in the strict way, which I'm going to get to. My larger aim, I feel, has been accomplished, and it relates to what I was just talking about with relationships, which is that in a similar way with my sobriety, which I have a different relationship to now, which I'll also get to, with food, I know from experience that like the more I'm eating and the more often I'm eating and the more I'm focused on food, it's kind of like an exponential thing. Like the mental obsession gets a kind of momentum and you get accustomed to that. And I look back and think that what I've gained out of this cleanse, despite not following it to the letter, is already I'm able to detach a bit from the mental obsession and preoccupation with food. I say obsession, it's not like I'm thinking about it all day, but this runs in my family. When I was just traveling with my family, you know, the first question we ask each other is like, what did you eat? What did you eat for lunch? You know, what are you gonna eat today? What are we gonna have for dinner? Like, we love food, and my dad's side of the family also loves food. Both my parents are food focused. I'm a foodie. And I mean, whatever that term means, it just means like maximizing, getting the most out of your meal. You know, I don't eat for function, I eat for, yes, the effect, but also the pleasure of the experience. So there have been times where, and I might not have been doing it in a healthy way, it could be the times where drugs like weed or smoking or alcohol or being very busy or stressed, I know from experience that sometimes for negative reasons, I would detach from food, or I would go longer without eating. But the relief that came from that, or when I was like being very fit or, you know, trying to watch what I was eating, in those periods, despite the fact that I'm very happy to be no longer in that phase and I have a much more healthy and grounded relationship to food, what I did learn from those phases is that by detaching myself from the constant wheel of consuming, it actually relieved a kind of a mental pressure. It created internal space where I didn't feel enslaved by my preoccupation with eating. And so, like with substances, let's say I pick smoking, let's talk about that. Yes, the craving goes away, for sure. I mean, your body gets used to no longer being dependent. When I stopped smoking weed, eventually my appetite came back, my irritability went away, my dreams came back. Yes, physiological changes happened, but what I find more interesting is that, let's say with cigarette smoking, when I smell someone smoking a cigarette, I have empathy for them now, but it doesn't even smell disgusting to me. I could, after a glass of wine, I could easily imagine doing it. And I don't crave it often, but every now and then I will crave a cigarette. And I've learned to live with the craving as opposed to feeling enslaved by it. I've learned to live with that little feeling and say, oh, there's that little appetite in there for it. I see it. I accept it. It's going to pass. I know from experience it's going to pass. And it does. And that, I think, has really been one of the biggest blessings from my sobriety, is that you could feel things and not need to yield to them or like panic, respond or react to them by either giving in or doing another avoidant behavior. And so I haven't talked a lot about this because it's a very sensitive topic, and I know people going through their own sobriety journeys, and I don't want to be an influence on them in any kind of dangerous way. We all have very different relationships to these things. And for me, the main area where I was trying to separate from an addiction was with weed, and I've kept that door completely shut because I know from experience it's very easy for me to be someone that would, smoke on weekends and, or smoke just like socially with someone, and then eventually I'm smoking in the evening during the week, and then eventually I'm smoking earlier in the day, and that's how weed became a slippery slope for me. Whereas with alcohol, I never drank alone. I never drank during the day, hardly ever. Unless you go to a pub with friends at lunch or something. So I was able in the spring, maybe I think April, to experiment with reintegrating a glass of wine here and there. And it was very successful reintegration and very surprising to me. I think the only reason I even trusted the urge to do that is because I do so much inner work, and I trust so much that I'm being guided by higher power / my intuition / my wisest integrated self. And the same thing that guided me into sobriety guided me into moderation with alcohol again from a very foodie place. I just found that, we have dinner every Friday with my neighbors, and they are connoisseurs. They work with a sommelier, and they get delivered these beautiful natural wines that you don't really find anywhere. And I love having that nice drink with a meal at times. Not always, I don't always feel like it, but I felt that I wanted to see if I could take the culinary pleasure of enjoying a drink or cocktail. I'm not someone that likes sweets, so drinking like kombucha or juice or that kind of stuff wasn't suiting me. I like more bitter and sour taste, which you find more with alcohol, especially the natural wines and beers. And so anyway, I experimented with that, and it was really a success. And I found out that I was someone that was able to be moderate, despite the fact that I have been able to excessively drink in the past, and people who know me in my previous incarnations would attest to that. So I think I was amazed that at least I was able to change my relationship to things over time by changing my habits. And I think that mostly it's because my life is centered in spirituality, wellness, and the meditation and connection with my spirit guides and the divine. That, I think, is what actually keeps me anchored, and that is why my habits have been able to evolve. But there is also a body memory, I believe, and that it was 15 months that I went without any alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, anything. And when I reintroduced alcohol, some of those habits that I had broken about, being in a social situation and thinking that you need a social lubrication and thinking that you need to drink to loosen up. I had broken that association largely again because of the inner and spiritual work that accompanied abstaining. And I think that relates to this cleanse because, you know, the weight gain that I've experienced over COVID and sobriety and veganism, all of these things led to the weight gain. Okay, but the weight gain itself is not the ultimate thing that bothers me. It's symptomatic of probably having used food as a way to find pleasure, comfort, escape, whatever it is. And it wasn't like the old binging and abstaining, like restricting and then binging. I didn't have any like disordered eating in that way, but there was a lot of mental attention being spent on food and what I'm eating and looking forward to the meal. And I love that side of myself, but I also, like I've said earlier, I don't like feeling enslaved to things even that I like and enjoy, because I loved weed, trust me, and I didn't quit it because it was bad to me. I quit it because I loved it a little too much. So I think what was beneficial about this cleanse is I could learn that I could feel a little hungry and not like panic, like I had to fix that right away. It's like, oh, that's there. Okay, the time to eat will come. And so on the third day, I got to the end and I felt I had 2 juices left. It was dinner time. And I just felt like, no, I definitely want to eat something solid. I felt that I would have to get in bed and watch TV or something. I felt that I would have to shut down in order to continue not to eat. And up until then, I had been productive. I was doing sessions and readings and courses. And at that point, I said, okay, I think I'm going to have to be really sedentary for the next day at least, unless something changes, in order to be able to continue. And I really just didn't want to stop my life. It felt counterproductive. I was doing this to feel more energized, not to shut down. And I also got the runs, which is, to me, it was a signal like, this is a little hard on my body, clearly, you know, because I have a really good digestion normally. And after I Googled it and found out that you get the runs when you're on juice cleanses because of either too much fructose, which I've had trouble digesting in the past, or because it's just too much sugar for your colon to absorb. And despite the fact that they're largely vegetable-based juices, apple is usually the first ingredient, and the ones I was having the most trouble with had grapefruit and beet. And so I think I was reacting to and pineapple, and I was reacting to the fructose, I believe. And I'm not someone that likes to suffer. Like I've never been overly rigid or structured because I don't really have the discipline and because I don't like to suffer. I like to be comfortable and enjoy things. And up until then, it was just like this light hunger. And at that point, I just felt like I really want food, so I'm gonna have food. So I had a light meal, pretty light. Had what I felt like, not what was prescribed. Usually it's prescribed to have roughage, like a salad or something. I just didn't feel like having more cold fiber food. So I had some protein and fats. It felt really good, but it wasn't euphoric. Like, you know, when you're fasting, you just, at the beginning especially, I just imagined having a baked potato and it sounded like heaven. It really just felt like, okay, this was good, but this is what my body needed. I think that's kind of what I've gotten out of this, and what I was maybe unconsciously hoping to get out of it is just, yes, I love to eat. Yes, I love the pleasure of flavor and all of that, but it also feels good to just eat what's needed, and then for my mind to be able to let go and move on to the next thing and not have so much of my energy drawn into food preparation and even digestion, because sometimes I would overeat even though I eat and cook so healthy. If you eat a little bit too much, you're drowsy after. And so there was just a lot of my time spending planning meals, cooking, because I cook like crazy, and eating and digesting. So reintegrating food has felt like a relief already. I feel like I've kind of broken that intense bond I have with eating, and I feel safer even if I feel the mild hunger coming up. And I do feel that when I allow myself to get hungry, I have a clearer sense of what my body needs rather than just sort of mentally eating or for pleasure. And, by not seeking out pleasure in the same places, especially ones that involve consuming, whether that's Instagram or alcohol or food, or shopping, when we don't only consume our pleasure and we kind of break that tie a little bit, then there's this invitation for our souls and bodies to seek out other forms of pleasure and fill that void. There's like that vacuum. So I think that if we're relying on those forms of consumption for pleasure, it might be a signal that we need more pleasure in other areas of our life. So we're not seeking it out in these kind of momentary ways of feeding that need. So I just wanted to share that, and also that, my Virgo boyfriend, who can be not critical, but he's likes to do things right, I guess. And so he's been kind of teasing me that I copped out on the cleanse and that he knew it was going to be too long. And yes, I know that there's a way to do this and you're not supposed to eat and all those things, but I don't feel like it's a failure, because I think the fact that I am someone that gives myself a lot of leeway and flexibility, that's what allows me to keep trying things and to keep daring and having the courage to do things that are out of my comfort zone. And if I was more perfectionist, and I know this from the past, like when I've been more perfectionist in the past, I procrastinate. It's like, if I can't do it perfectly, why am I going to do it at all? So the fact that I allow myself to do things halfway or 3/4 of the way or whatever it is, first of all, I develop a positive association rather than a negative association. So today, I had a momentary urge to have coffee. And I was like, okay, I just did some house cleaning. And then as time passed, I was like, I actually would prefer to have the juices I have left over rather than have coffee or eat yet. And I feel that I'm able to wait until the afternoon to eat. So it's the 5th day of the cleanse. I'm still doing it. I will be eating something probably soon, but it's actually like a pleasurable, joyful invitation to do this cleanse rather than feeling like, I can't wait till it's over. I never want to do it again, because that's how I was feeling by the 3rd day. So the more I think we make things our own and connect it to the truth of our body and our joy and make it kind of easy for ourselves and enjoyable, the more likely we are to return to that thing and feel like it's ours rather than something that's imposed on us. And I think I see a lot of people waiting to try things. They don't, because they don't know if they can do it 100% or they're totally qualified or prepared, they wait to get involved or to initiate the thing. And I think that's too bad, because we do learn more by doing than by prepping. When we're on the sidelines and we're looking out onto the terrain of what we think that we can accomplish, it always looks bigger and more monumental and more impossible. When we dip our toe in and we get to know the temperature of the water, then we can make little adjustments and be like, okay, this part is easy for me, this part is hard. I'm going to keep focusing on the areas where it feels easy. Like with meditation, the most successful thing for me by far was not, do it 20 minutes twice a day or don't do it at all. It was do it for 1 minute. Oh, 1 minute was easy. 3 minutes. Okay, 3 minutes is easy. 5 minutes. Oh, 5 minutes is easy. And I think that, even with my morning routine, the more I make it monumental, the more likely I am to abandon it altogether. Whereas if I don't do it first thing in the morning, maybe I'm going to feel like doing meditation later in the day, which is the case for me today. Maybe I'm going to do my alignment audio before dinner. Maybe I'm going to do my movement, in this evening. Maybe I'm going to do my reprogramming halfway through my work morning or whatever it is. That flexibility allows you to bring that new habit with you through the many permutations of your life, because our lives are not meant to be these fixed, rigid routines that never adapt. Life is constantly in flux, and the more that your new habits and perspectives are elastic, then they can evolve and grow as you become who you are in all the many different manifestations that takes. So I just wanted to share my experience that just because you don't finish something the way you thought you would at the beginning doesn't mean it's a failure. And just a final comment that, I used to joke with my parents and my friends that I had trouble finishing things, because there's a lot of things that I tried that I didn't finish. But I've realized that there's so many things that I have finished. Maybe some of them were hard, some of them came easily. But let's say with my work, because I'm doing the right kind of thing, I never have trouble getting through the things that I commit to. Sometimes I put them off, but I wait until it feels right, because I give myself that space to wait until it feels right. By the time I get to it, it comes really naturally and beautifully. When I'm in a loving relationship, I wake up every day and I want to be in that relationship. I don't have trouble staying in that relationship. When I'm making a meal I love, I don't have trouble finishing the meal that I'm making. When I'm doing, even a series, like you're watching a series you love, you don't have trouble getting to the end of the series. So I think that if I think about all the things I didn't finish, it's because I've been a kind of person that has allowed myself a lot of curiosity and leeway to experiment and try and dip my toe in. And I like that about myself, and I'm glad that I try more things, and not only the things I know I can master, because by trying more things, I am more quick to arrive at the thing that really suits me and comes naturally, and that thing I will finish with ease. And in my way, the way that I want to finish it. So I hope some of these things are helpful to you in some way, and I just wanted to share my experience, and I'll be going back to my regular programming tomorrow. And thank you for listening. As always, please subscribe and like and share these videos to show support for the content that I am sharing with you. And you can find me on Instagram, on TikTok, Facebook, all the things. Subscribe to my website if you want to receive updates about my blogs and offerings that I give only to my mailing list. And I do have my course on morning routines that is on sale for 25% off until September 15th. It's a back to school sale. Back to school with the number 2 is the code to receive the discount when you're on your checkout page. And that will take you through a morning routine, from how to invite in divine guidance, how to create your own prayer. And I give you 2 examples of prayers about how I think the best way to pray is. Little incantations or invitations for divine guidance you can say throughout the day. There's a guided alignment audio MP3 that you can download and take with you to reprogram and to give you the next right action, to take an issue that you're working through and come to a new solution or resolution. There is a guided meditation that you can do every morning. There is different tools and tips for meditation and how to stick to your habits, how to do dream interpretation, morning pages. There's journal prompts for self-interviews. So there's a lot in there, and really beyond just a morning routine, these are daily practices for self-healing and living by divine guidance, honing your intuition. It's what led me to doing this business, and I continue to rely on it, and I find it more helpful than any workshop or retreat or even therapists that I've seen, truthfully. Although I needed those things at the time, but really this is very sustainable and something you can take with you throughout the rest of your life. So I'll link that course page below, as well as the coupon code, and I'll be seeing you shortly.
Oh, 1 mile in fog patches and showers early.